Hello and welcome to Follow Everton. I'm Ryan, the channel founder and admin, and I'm here to give you a lot of news today. I'm actually not feeling very well today. I've got a terrible headache. I'm not too bad right now, but I'm not going to drag this stream out too long. It was just too much information, too much news, important stuff to not provide you with an update and some content for those who haven't been following everything going on. And of course, a good afternoon and welcome to everyone. If you're in the comments, please leave your comments and let me know what you think about everything that's been going on today. So I am going to start with the news, the biggest news, I think, arguably, of all of the news today. It's debatable, actually, because there's been so much. Kevin Thelwell, Everton's director of football, is going to be leaving Everton at the end of the season. His contract is up on the 30th of June. And to be honest with you, I felt like the writing was on the wall the minute David Moyes came into the club. Moyes, famously at Everton didn't work with the director of football. But I think opinions on Kevin Thelwell have been so mixed. How well he's done or how well he hasn't done. I'm intrigued to know what people think. Now, as I haven't got anyone to bounce off today, but I can just give you a general sort of things to consider when you come up with your opinion. Had absolutely no money to spend. A really difficult hand he's been dealt with, and he's dealt with it quite well, obviously steering us through PSR issues, being forced to sell our best players, whether you like it or not. Anthony Gordon, Richarlison and Iwobi would all be playing regular football for Everton now, and even, Anthony Gordon would possibly be our best player, in all honesty. He's that level. And so Kevin Thelwell had really difficult things to deal with in terms of the finances. I think you can judge him on the players that he did sign and the players he didn't sign as well, to some extent, because I think he clearly had some way of identifying some really good talent. I mean, you look at Gyökeres, who's now at Sporting Lisbon, scoring 40 plus goals a season. Darwin Núñez, not Núñez, sorry, Diaz at Liverpool. There was also the winger Mohamed Kudus, who went to West Ham. So there was multiple instances of players that Kevin Thelwell identified, but we just didn't have the funds to compete, or didn't have the negotiation skills to convince players, to convince clubs to sell. So there's so many ways of looking at it. You could say he had no money to spend to really compete, but at the same time, did he do enough to convince players to join? Did he do enough to convince clubs to sell on terms that would be more favourable to us? Did he do good enough at actually getting rid of players as well? Because it seemed to me that we're just letting everyone wind down the contracts and we couldn't get rid of anyone for any money. So a lot of different things there to consider. I want to know what people think. So if you're watching, there's over 123 of you watching. Give me your thoughts. Give you mine. But I obviously try and stay fairly neutral. I think some of his signings were good. Obviously, you look at Iliman and Dye, for example, and James Garner. They were really good signings. But then you look at the likes of Ashley Young, Jack Harrison. He signed Beto, who's just come good, but you could argue up until that period he was very ineffective. He signed Danjuma. There's been a lot of duds as well, I think. For every good signing, there's been at least one dud that he brought in. But and I think, I don't know whether he's done enough to really get rid of players and get profit for players who were on the fringes. Yes, he did really well with Gordon and Richarlison. You could say possibly undervalued, both of them, really. They're both, certainly Gordon's worth 60 million now at least. And, did he do enough to try and convince to get the most out of the sales for the players that weren't at that level? So you're talking about the likes of Yerry Mina. Could he have been sold for money earlier on? And that sort of thing. Why every single player ends up winding down their contract to the point where now we're in the summer with 13 players out of contract. But then I feel sorry for him in a way, because it's like he's had so much to deal with, not having money to spend. But then, as Tommy Coldrick's saying, the guy is a cop-out. He's a Liverpool fan. He was at the Champions League final in Madrid as with his son, so he's a red. To be honest, I don't like that at all. Not now. Um, Give me on the midstream. I hate it when that happens. Oh, we're gonna have to take 2 seconds. I'm really sorry about this. Do apologise about that. Really difficult. To try and do a live stream when people keep ringing you. Yeah, so I see all sides. He's a Liverpool fan. I don't like that. I don't like how he didn't get a lot of money for certain players who were whose contracts were running out or didn't have long left on the contract. I don't like some of the windows where we didn't sign players in key positions. I don't like his inability to convince individuals to join. Um, but then at the same time, there's been a few good signings like Ndai and Garner. He definitely steered through PSR quite well in the end and was able to juggle everything there. So there's lots of things to consider. Anyway, I think we'll go through that in more detail with more analysis as we look back on his tenure in due course. But that's Kevin Thelwell leaving Everton. And the question is for you guys, if you're watching, excuse me, and in the comments, who would you bring in to replace Kevin Thelwell? There was some talk of David Weir. So I'd be intrigued to see. Listen, either whatever we do, we need to have a director of football in ASAP. We also need the CEO position in ASAP. Who is negotiating the sponsorship deals? Normally, that's the CEO. Who is scouting and setting the overall football philosophy, recruitment, managing all the departments? That's the director of football. Now, do you want a director of football to do that now, who is leaving at the end of the summer? I think that doesn't work. I think there needs to be a plan in place and a vision. And it sounds like a bit of a mess, to be honest. But I was very worried about potentially Kevin Thelwell identifying players and sorting strategy for the summer, knowing that he may well not be here. But look, we've had that confirmation today that he's not here moving forward from June. Okay, other news. Two fixture changes, well, three fixture changes. The ones I'm going to point out the most importantly are Arsenal at home. This is on, I think, the 4th or the 5th of April. Do apologise, not 100% sure, but it's the same day as the Grand National. And they've moved it to 12:30. They had an opportunity to get that game moved away from the Grand National day, and it's been moved to 12:30 on the same day as a Grand National. That's unfair. It's chaotic for the fans, for people who wanted to go to the Grand National. I just think it's completely unreasonable. Policing is an issue there. Traffic is an issue there. Why have you done that? It's cruel and unfair on the fans. And even worse, arguably, is the Chelsea versus Everton fixture later in the month, where the match has been moved to a 12:30 kickoff on a Saturday. That is no consideration for the fans who want to go down and watch Everton away in London. They're going to need 4 to 5 hours traveling at least, which means, they're leaving in the early hours of the morning. I think it is completely unfair and unreasonable. No consideration for the fans whatsoever. Okay, in other news, apparently Everton women are considering taking over Goodison Park to use it for their stadium moving forward. So there was plans, obviously, to demolish Goodison Park at the end of the season. And now there is talk of keeping Goodison and letting Everton women use the stadium. Now, this for me is absolutely what an incredible idea. But is it really worth keeping? The cost to keep that stadium. The only way I can see that being like a viable long-term thing is if Everton sell the stadium to Everton women, and somehow I don't know how they'd get around it, but as a way of injecting cash into the club, could we sell it to Everton women for 500 million? I don't know if there's any way, but obviously Chelsea sold some hotels, didn't they? So can Everton sell an asset in Everton Stadium, Goodison Park, sorry, to Everton women? What an incredible story that would be. I don't know what people think about this. I personally think we need to, if there's no financial benefit, just let it go. It's clinging on to the past. We don't need the stadium anymore. I don't see the growth in women's football getting to the level where they need a ground like Everton Women, 40,000 seats every week. They were talking about it not passing safety and costing a fortune to run. So sorry, but what are the benefits there financially? Unless They think that the women's football is going to take off massively and they're going to sell out and make a fortune on women's games. Personally, I'll be honest, I've got no interest in Everton women. I know that might sound cruel. I genuinely don't care, and I've got no interest in going to any of the Everton women's games, even if it was at Goodison. It wouldn't interest me. But I'm intrigued to know what people think about this, potentially keeping Goodison Park and using it as the new home of Everton women from next season or the season after. I don't know when it would be, but rather than knock it down. And it does look like the Goodison Legacy project is dead. We haven't heard a lot about that. So I don't know what would happen. Anyway, leave your thoughts on that. There is one comment from Peter. The women probably sell Walton Hall Park and buy Goodison and Wormy Spoons. They'll get 2,500 2.5k attendance in home games. There's not enough to warrant a big stadium. I agree. I think maybe there would be an uptake in the short term because people would want to go to Goodison, but it's like the stadium can only do so much. You saw for the first test event, Everton under 18s, half the fans left at half time because they genuinely didn't care about Everton under 18s. And I just don't think the stadium goes enough of a way to make people show an interest in the women's team. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I hope they do well, but it's not something I would go to. And unless there's a way where we can use it as a mechanism to funnel money into the men's team by selling the ground to them as a separate business, then I don't see how this can work. Although on Twitter, there's been some really good comments about this. People seem to be desperate to keep Goodison and want to use it for the women's team. So in other news, I'm sure there's some other things I'm meant to be talking about on the stream. I think one of them is that Everton met with Liverpool City Council, Steve Rotherham, loads of different parties. I think the Everton Fans Forum were there as well, the Fan Advisory Board. And it's all to do with talking about the transport situation at Everton Stadium. And they've just announced that the second test event will be on Sunday, the 23rd of March at 2 p.m. 25,000 people will be in attendance, and they have already conducted the first ballot. I have a ticket for that. I may not be able to go now, unfortunately, due to other commitments. However, there is now an opportunity to put in and try and get another ticket for this match. Transport. I've talked about this before. They want to try and prioritize the blue badge parking. I appreciate that. There's got to be somewhere for disabled people with hidden and physical disabilities to park near the ground. That goes without saying. Currently only 52 spaces apparently in Bramley Moor itself. They need more parking. It is a complete disgrace. We do not have the answers for that, and the stadium is opening in just a few months' time. But they are prioritizing that. Second thing, they want to make the fan zone at the cattle pen for Sandhills. They want to improve Sandhills. More staff, easy access. Listen, you can't polish a turd. It's a Category E train station. It's very small. It was under capacity for 10,000 in the first match. It's going to be under capacity for 30,000 plus for the next match. Come on, Everton. A spade is a spade. You can only do so much. We need some parking. There are fans coming out of town. There are fans in the city that need to be able to park near the vicinity of the ground. We need some parking. It's all well and good saying get the shuttle bus. If you're in a group of 4 or 5, as I often am, we're not going to suddenly get the train or a bus. There's a group of us. We park Stanley Car Park at Goodison Park. We need to have comparable facilities. You can't build a 52,000 seater stadium and have nowhere to park. It is farcical. I appreciate you trying your best. We've got the state-of-the-art ground, but we need more parking, not just blue badge. Of course, prioritize blue badge, but we also need some general parking. You can't expect us to park in the city centre, town, or in Bootle and walk 2 miles. It is not fair. And Sandhills is not up to scratch. And yes, you can improve it, but it will never be able to cope with 30,000 people in a way that keeps them safe, protected from the elements, and deals with that capacity of people. And saying park and ride, yes, that will help with small numbers of people, but you have to look at the bigger picture, and there's got to be massive change. And I think after this second test event, when Evertonians are saying, look, the novelty is going to wear off fast. We need somewhere to park. We need better transport. We need buses. We need taxi ranks. No taxi ranks. We need somewhere to get a taxi. We need somewhere for taxis to wait, taxis to drop off. We need at least a drop-off point for people who then maybe have to move their car and walk. If they're in a group, they can drop a few people off and then they can move the car and walk. We need drop-off points, taxi points. They talked about apparently improving the street lighting. That is a matter of urgency. The last thing you want coming out of Everton Stadium in the cold, a Wednesday night, in the dark, is not being able to see where you're walking. That has got to be done. Okay. So today's news, to summarize, Kevin Thelwell, director of football, leaving at the end of the summer. I think he's done some good things. I think he's had a very bad hand he's dealt with, but I also think he's made some howlers with some individual signings. Hasn't quite got over the line with players we've needed at certain times for whatever reason. Whether that's money, then obviously that's not his fault. But part of me does want to see an alternative universe where he gets a chance to see how he does with money, because some of his talent spotting, like Gyökeres and Diaz and some other players, have been quite impressive. So, look, it's not happening now, so we move on. Three fixture changes, two of them. One of them on the Grand National Day, Arsenal at home, as we move to a 12:30 kickoff. Can't be doing that on the Grand National Day. And the one against Chelsea at the end of the month, unreasonable time for the away fans. Everton women apparently could be using Goodison Park moving forward. That is another big story. And Everton Transport Committee met with the council and various other stakeholders today to discuss all the issues surrounding parking transport at Bramley Moor Dock. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you're new here, please make sure you subscribe and turn notifications on. And as always, smash the like button, leave your comments after, and I'll be sure to take a look at them and carry on the discussion. Thank you and take care.